It's time for another Dice Tower review with Tim Jennette.
Hey everyone, this is Tim Jennette, the Metal Meeple, and in this video we're taking a look at a game called Farlight, published by GameSalute in 2017 by designer Nick Sibicki, and it's for 2 to 5 players, takes about 45 minutes or so. In this game, players are going to use bidding tokens to bid on different ship parts and different facilities to get requirements in order to run these missions. When you run missions, you get victory points, and at some point the game's going to end and whoever has the most points wins. So let me show you the components and everything and how it plays, and we'll come back and I'll tell you what I think. So here we have a basic layout for a 3-player game of Farlight. I'm not going to go over everything, but I'm going to kind of quickly go over the summary of the game basically. Down here you have all these different part cards that will come out, and depending on the number of players, you fill this up. So you can see in a 3 you stop here, this will be 4 and 5 and 5. You have the different facilities right here, which will do different actions basically. You have some achievements that are in-game scoring. You have the dice that you are going to place out on these cards down here. And up here you have the 3 mission decks. Now the idea is each player is going to get a core card to begin with, and you're going to buy these parts down here and insert them onto your ship, in which case you're going to actually attach them such as this, you know, and then you're going to use these parts to meet the requirements of the missions. The mission cards are randomly dealt at the beginning of the game, and that's all you're going to play with throughout the game. You can see there are normal missions, which are lower in points and priority or whatever. In this case, this mission requires you to have 1 engine die that's a 1 or higher and 2 biotech tokens or biotech numbers on your different parts down here. Once you have that and you place a chip up here, you can actually complete this mission. And the first person to complete this mission will receive the full victory points. Every subsequent player will also receive half the victory points rounded up. At the beginning of the game, depending on the number of players, you shuffle all these basic missions into 3 different piles. 2 or 3 cards depending on the number of players, and you also have these climatic missions that also go on each pile, but they are then sorted by the numbers. So you can see here we have a 6, 10, and a 19, so the missions get harder and harder and more requirements to complete them. Each player is going to receive 5 bidding tokens. These bidding tokens are labeled 0 through 4, and you're going to use those to actually try to bid on these parts to win them. So to begin, each player's the starting player is going to, and this rotates each round, but the starting player is going to choose 2 of their tokens and bid on 2 different things, or the same thing if they would like. So in this case, let's go here and we'll go here. Now it is worth noting that some of these cards here, which I forgot to put on here, but we're going to do it now, they have numbers, and these numbers are called engine dice. This is just a priority. You count up however many engine dice are available down here. In this case, I think there's just 2. Yep. You would take 2 dice and you would roll them. Let's get a better roll here for whatever. And you would, depending on the numbers down here, 4 is the highest number re-rolled, 75 is the highest number here, and 20 is the second highest. And if there were more cards, you would just do the priority from highest to lowest, and you would put the highest die on the highest engine number, so on and so forth. Anyway, so first player puts down 2 different tokens. Now, you do start with some of these crew tokens. You can place one of these on each token as you place them, each bidding token, but only when you place it, the moment that you place it on the board. The next player is going to take 2 of their tokens and say, go here, and they challenge us here. The purple will go there and there. And then let's say it comes back to white player. White player has to play 2 more tokens, so we'll go here and here. Yellow's like, you know what, he's going after that engine, I'm going to double up on him, and I'm going to amplify that by 1. Purple will go, say purple goes here, and to double up on that, and then finally each player has 1 token left to spend. At this point, we're going to take the cards down here and reveal basically bottom up. So in this case, this player spent 2, the white player will receive this card, etc., etc. That's a 6, the purple player. In this case, we have a fight here. We got 3 plus 1 crew, which is 4 to a 2. If you win a part or win an action space and you put crew tokens on there, you lose the action tokens. If you place the crew token on a bid token and you lost, you get it back. However, if you bid on missions, those go either way. You lose them either way. So in this case, we have a 3, a 0, and a 1. Zeros are mainly for bluffing. So blue didn't do too well, but yellow won and would get this card with the dice on the same facings. And you would keep going until all these parts have been purchased. Then you would do the facilities. There's 4 of them. You can see here. The first one is an engine upgrade, the engineer, and it's simply going to take 1 engine die on your cards that you already have in your ship and increase it by 1. This one, if you win it, it's going to give you 1 science token, which is going to be used for the requirements of the missions. And lastly, you have the crew token. In this case, yellow would get the crew token. They would actually get 3 crew tokens as shown here to add into their stash, basically. And then you have refit. If you bid on refit, that will allow you to discard parts from your ship. Everybody starts with this core piece on their ship, and that's going to basically have 4 locations that you can build on. When you buy a part, then you get to place it into your ship like so. There are certain requirements. Once you bought it, when you place it in your ship, you may have to pay that many crew tokens right here, but it's going to give you some benefits. So there's no real requirements to where you can build them. You just have to have an available spot, basically. Anyway, there are 3 other sides of to the coin here, basically. The bottom right is things that are going to happen each turn. So each turn during this phase, you're going to be able to increase 1 die in your ship by 1. And let me show you some of the other ones here. In this case, you would get a science token each turn. This one is just an engine die. The engine die are used for the different requirements. This one, when you build it, anything up in this with a lightning bolt, when you build it, you immediately get that, and that's the end of it. But this does have multiple connectors here. And the last symbol you're really looking for are these biotechs at the bottom left. And those are permanent, so you never really spend those, whereas science tokens you do spend. And like I said, what you're trying to do is go on these missions. You can see here it requires 2 biotech and 1 engine die that's at least a 1 or higher. Whereas the critical missions here, or the climatic missions, this would require a 5+, a 6, a 6, 5 biotech symbols, and 3 science tokens that you would actually spend. Now anytime you run these missions, you do have to put a bidding token on it, and that's going to signify this mission will go away. And other people can see that, and they may want to go on that mission because, like I said, the first player, or not even really the first player, it's whoever bids the highest during that round will get to run the mission at full points. Everybody else who bids on that mission during that round, who's lower than the first player, will get half points rounded up. And that's where you're going to get your victory points to win the game. Other than the achievements at the end of the game, there are a few different ones. Like this is, what's the first player token? This is like whoever has the most engine dice, you know, whoever has the most open connections on their ship. All these are worth 5 points. Whoever has the most biotech symbols at the end, etc., etc. And that's pretty much the game without going into all the rules. Whoever has the most points at the end, and again, the game will end in 2 different ways. Either this parts deck runs out, or not really runs out, but can't replenish the amount of parts that are gone. It is worth noting that in between rounds, any parts that weren't purchased actually get a crew token on it to make it make it more incentive to be purchased. Once this deck can't replenish parts, or the climatic mission at the end of a stack gets ran, that's when the game ends. Whoever has the most points is the winner. And there you go. That is pretty much the overview for Farlight. As a disclaimer, I did receive this as a review copy from Game Salute. Now, I'm going to start by saying the first thing I love about this game is I like bidding games, but I love bidding games like this because you don't spend your victory points or resources or money or whatever in order to bid on new stuff. You simply get bidding tokens that you receive every round, and you get to use those to bid on new stuff. I just love that. That is awesome to me. It automatically makes this game way more enjoyable than some other games where literally you have a set amount of money and it's whoever has the most money at the end. So it's like, how much do I spend to buy this to get something new? Now, some people might like that because the analyzation of how much do you think things cost basically in victory points, whereas this is literally, I'm gonna put my highest token on this one. I want that card, right? And that gives me, or that brings me to my next point, which I love that 0 token. The ability to be able to bluff and to say, yeah, whatever, you don't need this, and you put that other token down, and you make it seem like you might want it, but you got your 0 and your 1 there, and so you draw a bunch of heavy hitters out. So it's just super fun to do it like that. The other thing about the bidding I will mention is that it's interesting how the actual bidding changes throughout the game, because as players run out of space, they may not need anything that connects to a left-hand side. So you start looking and you're like, wow, no one needs left-handed components, or components that need a connection that's on the right-hand side of the card. And so you start looking, you're like, wow, I need those, right? So you don't have to bid that much on those parts. You can bid on the parts they're going after that they need, but you might need them as well. So it's kind of interesting how things start dropping off in priority, even though they're really good. It's just that people don't need them. One, because they might not need any more biotech symbols, because you can see all the missions available, and you might only need 3 biotech symbols for the whole game. So once you get that, you're set. Or dice for the engines and things like that. So it's just kind of interesting how the bidding changes from round to round. It's not always trying to bid or outbid people on the best stuff. It's about what people need. So it's kind of chaotic at first, the first couple rounds, then it starts to settle out, and you kind of have to watch the field on what people might be putting their tokens on, just because what they might need for their ship. Now, that brings me to the other part about this game I love, and it's that concept of building that ship. I love to get the parts up. One of my favorite games to play, it's not in my top 10 or anything, is Galaxy Trucker. And you can see how it's very similar in how you assemble the ship and stuff. It's not as restrictive, obviously, but it's really fun. You get to build the ship, and you make this cool looking ship that you want to take on these missions. And the missions are super cool because you have to, one player gets to start this out. They put a token up there and everybody's like, oh man, we're going on this mission. And maybe they're just bluffing. Maybe they put their 0 up there or something, right? Anyway, so people start trying to get the stuff they need to run that mission, and then everybody starts running the mission, and when that mission is gone, you can't get victory points from it, so you're like at least trying to put something up there and try to run it that turn, because you want at least half those victory points. So really cool concept to me. Lastly, I will say that this game does include a 6-player worth of components in the box, so it's kind of confusing. Everything is for 5 players in this. I'm assuming maybe they just had 6 ideas for different organizations or whatever they are, and so they made 6 sets of tokens and cards or whatever. But I think you could probably play this with 6. I haven't tried it, but maybe put 2 more parts out down at the bottom of the board and then play with 6 players. Why not? I actually like the game with more players, although it does work with less players. I know it says 2 to 5. I actually haven't tried it 2. I've tried it 3, and pretty much the rest of the player counts multiple times. So I like it at lower player counts. People aren't fighting. More people are fighting over things in a 6-player or a 5-player game because not that many parts get added in a comparison to how many tokens are being thrown out there. So if you don't like the congestion of that, maybe play it with lower players. But for the most part, it plays well at all player counts to my standard. And I had a lot of fun with it. I'm looking forward to playing it more. This is just a really cool bidding game. I was taken by surprise by it. So very excited to see what's in the future for this game, if they come out with any expansions or whatnot. Lastly, I think the achievements are pretty neat, although it would have been cool to see a few more of them. But for the most part, they make sense in the game, and they're kind of there. And the achievements, they make or break the end sometimes. You might be real neck to neck with somebody, and that achievement's just that last straw. So they are a cool addition to the game. So I highly recommend this one. If you haven't heard of it, please check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you like bidding games. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at timjennette@gmail.com. Comment below. Follow me on social media at the handle below. Check out my podcast called Meeple Core. And until next time, keep on rocking and rolling dice.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.